all to today's wrap-up session. You all just had the chance to attend one of 3 parallel sessions, and they were all wonderful myth-busting sessions. You had the choice between what to expect as a new group leader or professor, grants and publications, or careers beyond academia. Well, now I think we heard that before, and maybe you felt like it in the moment that you would have loved to attend all 3 sessions at the same time, and of course that's not possible. So that's why we have this wrap-up session for you, so you cannot, don't have to have so much fear of missing out. We will share with you some of the insights and experiences that you existed in the sessions that you could not attend yourself. Exactly. So I first talk a little bit to the moderators here present. You have Martin next to me, there's Marike and Bernard and Anne, and then you'll also get a chance to share your experiences and your insights from your respective sessions. So maybe then Marike and Bernard, we'll start with you. When you look back at the session you just had in grants and publications, what would you describe as the overarching themes that came up in from the insights from the speakers, but also from the questions from the audience? Yes, unmute yourself, Marike. Thank you.
Yeah, would be good. Huh? Maybe I would just briefly summarize what we talked about, because we had like different themes. We talked about, we looked behind the scenes of a publication process from the view of an editor. We had an editor with us from Wiley. And then we had a look at the reviewing process from the point of view if you are a reviewer yourself. And we talked about publication process and strategy. Do you have this as a researcher? Is it important? And then we tapped the subject grants proposals. What about the granting and writing process? What about the funding agency? How are they structures? Do we get in contact with them? And I think I mean, you want me to summarize maybe the main outcomes of the sessions?
Yeah, what maybe if you have like something that you say like these are my takeaways, of course. And Bernard, you can just jump on in and add to that.
I think one main takeaway is really that rejection is a part of the game. And it's normal that maybe 6 out of 7 applications get rejected, and you should get used to it, and that's okay. That's totally okay. It's valid for everybody who's in the game. And also we tap this myth, no professorship without big grant. That's not true. It really depends on the research field you're in. It's totally different for humanities or social science than it is for natural science, and several smaller grants can also lead to the professorship at the end. And what else? Maybe the aspect, this quality alone is not sufficient to win a grant or publish a paper. You might think that, but it's actually the fit, the timing. You have to find the right fit for a grant program and for the suitable journal. And yeah, it's not quality alone.
Yeah, so we talked a lot about clarity, like how to really get it across to a reviewer reading it at 10:30 at night. And we talked a lot about also like this question, how do you get information? You know, contact funding agencies, gather information on the fit, see whether you fit. Don't randomly apply, but focus. It was like a big theme, I think. And surprising for me, and I think also for Marike, was we had tons of questions regarding age. I hope we could bust some myths that
your biological
age, right? That it's maybe not as important as some people may think.
It's rather the academic age that counts, at least if you want to apply for some grants.
But not for all. So
not for all, yeah.
Don't give up.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very nice. I jumped around from session to session to like catch a little bit of the mood that was going on. And one thing that stuck with me from your session is that as rejection is part of the game, and you will experience it inevitably. Someone shared from the speakers that when you get rejected, he would recommend to call and ask why. Because if you call, it's not necessarily on the record, and people are more likely to reply, give you like a hint or an explanation, rather than when you put that in writing, because then people fear that you might call them out on it later. Is there any other specific thing where you would say like that's really to be kept in mind? Also, I think the other thing I noted was the marriage between like the insight knowledge between career centers and funding agencies, how they might be a stepping stone for you to get your grants accepted. Can you maybe briefly talk about that as well?
Yeah, so it's really important to, we talked about, do you get support from your institutions? Because there are some departments who actually should take care of that if you want to apply for a grant. And some speakers said, yes, I got great support. Others said no, but still it's important to contact them and to like let them know I'm applying, I don't know, for an Eminöte or for an ERC grant, because sometimes they have connections you don't have, and you can maybe go the short way, and they might call somebody at the funding agency, which might or give important information you don't get if you don't involve the department. And for the asking, yes, because in our career coaching sessions, we experience this as well, that people are shy to call because they think, I don't know, the DFG puts you on a list and you cannot apply for any grant ever again. If you call them and ask questions, that's not the case. Call and ask and get the information you need, and also activate your network. Talk to peers, talk to people who just got a grant in your field, and ask them about pitfalls, about their learnings and experience.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. So now for you in the audience who attended Marike's and Bernhard's session, what was for you the thing that surprised you most that you take away from this session? Or maybe what was the myth that got busted for you in the grants and applications session? Just quickly type it to the chat so we can also like tab your collective intelligence here and see whether this maybe yields a little bit of more results or different results from what Marike and Bernhard took away. Not the quality of the proposal is the most important thing. I hope I get that right.
The fit, probably.
Yeah, that goes along with the line of the fit topic. Go for the big ones, probably meaning going for the big grants and dare to try. Anything else that you took away as a specific insight or something that surprised you as a fact that you just learned in this session?
Editors and reviewers are people too.
Nice. Wow. Yeah, I mean, Bernhard, maybe for you, anything else that you surprised you?
I was really surprised how similar the experience of our speakers were, even coming from different fields, and how this theme of dealing with rejection and learning to accept it was very, very much shared.
Nice. And then I also see Elaine saying the generalized rejection rate. So knowing that you're not alone in receiving rejections, maybe sometimes even alleviates the burden. Or yeah, great, perfect. I would now move on to Anna's session about careers beyond academia. And I would kind of like ask you the same, like what were the overarching topics that came along in your session, and what were the most burning questions that people from the audience wanted to get answers to?
So we basically talked a little bit about the different steps from me being in academia and maybe having some doubts creeping in, or like some ideas, do I want to do something else, and then what to do, and then the specific steps. And I think it was very important that we talked about like positioning yourself, meaning figuring out what you actually want to do and what you're interested in. Not necessarily knowing exactly the position that you want to have, but rather, what do I enjoy doing? What kind of life do I want to live? And also be honest to yourself in this process, because we're often influenced by, you know, maybe society or expectations that we have on ourselves. So that was like the first step. And then, you know, you go on, how do I figure out what kind of jobs are even out there? How do I do that? Especially when you're in academia and you don't have connections to non-academic fields. So we talked about having a LinkedIn profile, conducting informational interviews, and being proactive, not being shy, talking about that you're looking for a job, be open about it. And then, of course, when you sort of have a little bit more of an idea, then what kind of skills do you have? How do you figure out transferable skills? Like, don't let yourself be restricted by your own narrative. Oh, I can only do this, and therefore I have to find a job because I do pipetting, like let's say in academia, I have to do pipetting in my job, right? So be a little bit more open about your skills and what you actually like to do. And then, of course, very practical things. How do I translate a CV or a resume into a more non-academic situation? So we, of course, gave some ideas and some insights. A lot of this stuff you can Google, but I think what's important is that you think as an employer. If you were the employer, like what would you want to know about this person? Like what's important to say, right? So a lot about storytelling and figuring out what your story is, what you want to contribute and what you can bring to the table. And one attendee gave a really good idea about the storytelling method, the STAR method, focusing on the situation, task, action, and then the result. And by talking about these certain steps or also communicating them, that is super helpful. And then, of course, when you did that, don't give up too easily. That transitioning phase between academia and your first non-academic job is hard. A lot of people struggle. That takes a while. You will be rejected. It will be frustrating, but that's completely normal. And just be brave, believe in yourself. I think Mayur said something really nice. He said, you know, transition is difficult, but you have to believe in yourself. You're a smart person. You've come that far. Like, don't give up. And also, it's a choice. Being in academia or not being in academia is a choice, and you're the agent of your life. And like, dare to be the agent of your life and do that. Apart from all the, you know, nitty bitty concrete things, OCB has to look like that. I think that's a general overarching message that we had in this session.
Very nice. When I dropped in, one thing that I took away is also like, particularly when you have been having a career for a long time in academia and you then realize like either you don't get the position in academia that you want to, or you just feel like it's no longer the right fit, that you might feel overqualified when you start to look for a career beyond academia. How and I heard, I think one of the speakers talk about like, how could you actually address that? How could you deal with that when you feel like, I don't even know if I have a chance in another market because all I know is academia and I feel like now I'm really overqualified for anything else?
Again, it's storytelling. Try to figure out, why do I want this job and why do I want to work for this company? Marika and I, we had like an application at some point, and this person wrote, oh, my DFG project didn't get extended and therefore I want to apply for this job. Of course, this is not like the best idea, right? So try to figure out, why do you actually want to do that? And be human, be also open about it. Nele, for instance, said she just wrote that for her publishing job that she worked in a bookstore, right? And somehow that resonated with people at the publishing house. So be honest, be open, try to figure out what you want, and also maybe address that overqualified thing, because you said, yeah, maybe I have a PhD, but look, I'm really interested in learning this and that. And I think that helps.
Great, thank you very much. I think like what stick with me right now is like, never assume that people not see a connection. Like when you put something out there, maybe it speaks to people and you don't even realize that. So like, don't assume the small personal information that you can give to give context to why you want to do something. Also now for you as part of the audience who attended Anna's session, what was the thing that the insight you just gained in this session on careers beyond academia that was the most surprising for you?
I had to share passions with a network.
Nice.
I think there was a similar thing that Marika and Bernhard mentioned, like you have to talk to people, you have to, you know, be proactive, to, you know, say what you want, ask questions. I think that's important.
Yeah, absolutely. Contacting hiring managers, put yourself out there. Anything else? Oh, yeah, one can never be so sure what could resonate with the employer, so details are good. And the importance of storytelling. Now I'm going to move on to Martin, who's right next to me, and kind of would like to know, Martin, what, from your session, what to expect as a new group leader, professor. What was the thing, like, what were the overarching themes that you would say you could identify from this session?
Yeah, we covered a lot of ground. And I also took the crowd a couple of minutes over, but it was very interesting. So we did dive into the topic with kind of what changed the most when becoming a new group leader or a professor. And that was kind of a mix, right? There was a lot of, I don't want to put them into negative and positive, but there was, the one thing was like, for example, your calendar explodes. So you kind of need to ramp up your time management skills immediately. You might also have a couple of sleepless nights because the burden of responsibility also goes up massively compared to being a postdoc or a PhD, where you also sometimes might have a sleepless night because the experiment is not going as planned, but you don't have the burden of providing for 10 folks in the lab. On the same hand, this is also a very positive thing because providing for 10 folks in the lab, I'm just speaking figuratively here, is also meaning that you can empower 10 people. So that's also a very positive thing. And then, of course, you dive into the world of administrative stuff. So Tuan, becoming a group leader during the pandemic, you have to deal with visa issues. You have to make very quick decisions, so project management skills. And then again, at the same time, obtaining such a position can also come with a big sense of freedom, right? Like maybe it can also mean that the hustling stops for a brief moment, but then again, of course, it starts again. It seems to be like the thing for academia. The hustling
never ends,
never stops.
Very
yes.
Nice. And was there something regarding the questions that came from the audience? Was there something where you say like that was really, people were really looking forward to get answers to something very specific? There
were a couple of questions around the topic of family. When is it a good time to start? And family was kind of duo-fold. It was like the traditional family, like maybe having kids and stuff like that, but it was also the academic family. So and the academic family was interesting because that also comes with the trait of leadership skills that folks in the audience and not in the speakers, you don't have them as a postdoc, right? How do you assemble a good team, right? So you need to obtain these leadership skills. And because Marike and Bernard, they talked about fit when it comes to grants, that was an overarching theme, that fit, when you apply for a position in a lab, fit is outperforming, let's say, grades or even your academic accolade, right? Are you a good fit to the group, right? Of course, you need to do the work and stuff like that, but the fit, actually, the value, the set of values was more important. That was very interesting. And one thing, now Zika had a great prompt we also asked the audience a question, and she wanted to know the best and the worst group leaders, behaviors of a group leader. And so they came back with a lot. And that was very interesting, from micromanaging to please listen to me. It was not only worse.
I think the first one was bad, right? And
yes,
the
micromanagement was not so great.
Yes, and I heard that even as a group leader, it's important to find mentors quickly,
yes,
and to have mentors to maybe also get quickly acquainted to this new situation. Yes. And I think Tuan shared that whenever she, now in her new position, still writes proposals or grants, she sends them she quickly tries to identify people who could be of relevance to her and just sends them her proposals. Yes. And at least half of them get back. And what I took away was kind of like, be shameless or be fearless and have no shame in putting yourself out there.
Yes,
is that
absolutely,
a common thing?
It was a common thing, like daring to ask, right? I think daring to ask is a super important takeaway here, that people mostly think they need to figure it out completely for themselves and cook up a picture perfect whatever it is, and then they can maybe ask for advice. And sometimes it's much better to, or very often it's much better to ask for advice early on. And Tukcha also mentioned the people she asks for advice, because when you're a group leader, I ask them, who do you ask for advice? She says it's usually the people that you met along the way. So it's maybe more peer mentoring, but you still need to dare to ask, right? Or also, now Zika very beautifully mentioned, get coaching, right? If you can, if you have entities at your universities or beyond, doesn't matter, get coaching and dare to be stupid. She said it, right? It doesn't matter if you're a professor or group leader. You can always, you're always going to be, there's always going to be something that you don't know. I mean, that's part of academia. That's part of science, not knowing. And yes.
I think
yes.
Final thing?
Yes,
okay, go for it.
No, it's more some of the myths I actually wanted to talk about.
But yeah, maybe before we move on, because you just talked about family, there's a very concrete question coming from Lucas. What is the best moment in a career to get children when you aim for a professorship? Can you give us a number, Martin?
It's the second month after you're appointed, and then
no,
it is actually at any time, I think, right? And even as a postdoc, it's because there's never the perfect time. It might sound a little cheesy, but I think that was the sentiment of the group, right? And also around the topic family, because I talked more about the academic family, they said, hey, as a group leader, professor, you just need to get your priorities right? It's just like kids with the times, and they block it on the calendars, and done. It's non-negotiable, and then it works. And I also took that away from the opening session this morning. Your kids also will make you more productive in a certain way, because there's a hard cutoff at, I don't know, 4 or whenever you have to pick up your kid from kindergarten, and so you have to finish the stuff by then. So no more procrastinating or no more perfectionism, right? Sometimes we put too much time and work into things that could be done in less time. And also children can teach you that in a very helpful way.
Yeah, maybe not only children, because I think someone also needs to leave this morning or this afternoon for taking their dog out for a walk. Yes, so totally. Whatever is family to you. Maybe one last thing that I would personally say regarding when's the right time for having a family. Also, don't forget that you can't order kids. Right? Like, even if you feel like now is the right moment, it doesn't mean that it actually is happening as you want it to, right? So, live your life, and everything else needs to fit in with that too. I also want to give the audience a chance from this session to share into the chat. I see there's already some things shared, and I will address them in a second.
Yeah, I
first,
forgot
as someone said, from Max, we got both of our children while I was still doing my PhD. I finished rather well. It wasn't easy, but there is no perfect timing.
Thank you, Max.
Thank you very much for that. So I would like to know from the audience that attended Martin's session, what were the insights that you took away? Like, what were the myths that got busted for you? And maybe then Martin can add to that. But now is your time to share what were your insights from the what to expect as a new group leader professor session. What surprised you?
Yeah.
Yeah, the focus is less on producing results, but on building up a team. Try more rather than waiting.
So again, this theme of proactivity.
Expect those unexpected moments and difficulties coming to your group.
Thank you, Habib. That was one myth busted by Tuksha, right? Expecting the unexpected. And she meant that in 2 ways. The way I understood it is, if you become a group leader, you've been a part of the academic system a long time, PhD, postdoc, whatever, but still you haven't figured it out. You never have figured it out. And making this new transition comes with a lot of unexpectedness. She also meant that in a way, when you hire for your team or search for your team, you should also look for the unexpected, and not only for people that are similar to you or come from the same institutions. So don't only look for things that you expect, look for the unexpected and cherish it. It's along the lines of implicit bias and all of that.
Yeah.
Anything else coming up in the chat?
I don't think so.
One myth.
One last thing, and then
one last thing. Okay. One last thing was they also said is Matt beautifully said, go after the thing that you're interested in. So have a clear vision as a group leader, as a professor, right? And then so what you're interested in, what you're excited, and then you need to be able to also defend that, because sometimes you're kind of like starting to be, I don't want to say all over the place. And then that can really ponder on your enthusiasm and on your curiosity, which are finite resources. So you have to protect it, and you have to keep that vision, and you have to follow through with it.
Yes. Thank you for that, and thank you for all the other insights. Lastly, in the chat, CT just said people are the most important thing in a group, and Martin gets kudos for thumbing it up. Wonderful. I also want to address that a couple of you put things into the chat that were regarded to Anna's session still. I think Christian said something about understanding the position, the needs, and identify your strengths are worth mentioning for the position that you're applying for, and gave a recommendation for a book to find career opportunities in biotechnology and drug development. And Nazanin also said, like, on the topic of career in academia, someone told me that creating value is a very important topic in industry. So maybe that's also an overarching thing that I take away right now, is like people and value matter both in academia and industry. Before we wrap up, or as we are wrapping up, I would like to ask you all who stayed with us for this 30 minutes, now that you gained insight from all these 3 parallel sessions, your mind's probably exploding. But I would like to ask you for one last time today, when you look back at these 30 minutes that we just shared with each other, right? What will you remember? It can be from your own session, it can be from a different session. What's the first thing that comes to your mind? What will you remember? Just type it in the chat right now, so we can tap the collective intelligence of the group once more. What insight, what's the thing that you will remember from this wrap-up session? Just try, believe in yourself and keep going. Call the grant agency after getting rejected to get a better understanding. Put yourself out there. One has to be willing to take risks, sometimes even a lot of them. Be shameless to ask for help, for senior or any other who can help you. Tell a story and craft it for your audience. Become a storyteller. I'm the only one that can decide my future career. Absolutely. Imposter syndrome can be overcome. Try to figure out your passion and priorities and stick with them. The rest, be it family or career, will follow and work somehow. See the human on the other side, even if there is a power dynamic. Take a lot of risks and be nice to your family so you can stay for free. All right. Dare to get them know you. Be proactive and don't get discouraged. Call the grant agency, contact hiring manager, and get your priorities right. As a postdoc or PhD, when you get papers rejected, your supervisor isn't happy, you got stressed out, at least you see your kids growing well. Yay! And always expect the unexpected. Wonderful wrap up, everybody. Thank you for being here with us. Thank you for your time, your interest, and your participation. I hope the insights you gained today are and will be of value to you and your career. But as we, I think, learned today, there is a life beyond career, or career is part of life, maybe, and not the other way around. So yes, all the best to you, and have a nice rest of your day. And with that, I'll hand over to Anna for some final words. Yes.
Yeah, I'm glad that we were all honest to each other, and I hope you appreciated that and you got something out of the conference, because this is why we're doing that for you. And follow us on LinkedIn, on Twitter. There will be some more articles and stuff coming out from this conference, some more resources. So tell your friends, your colleagues about that, and that we exist. We would appreciate that. And have a good evening, and until next time. Bye-bye.